Hello. Today we're going to do lesson 1.2. So on your note sheet, you're going to write lesson 1.2, and we're going to talk about points, lines, line segments, and rays. That should not be new information to you. However, we are going to review. So in your vocabulary section, I want you to go ahead and we're going to write down some definitions. So our first one is going to be point. And remember, if I go too fast, you can always pause the video, write it down, or come back and get it later, whichever you choose. But definition for point is exact location in space. Okay? So when we see a point, we think of it as a dot or a circle that's filled in, but it is just that. It is an exact location in space. Second one is line segment. And we think about a line segment, that's going to be a straight path joining two points. Okay? So we talked about point before, so if we have 2 points together and something connecting those, that's going to be my line segment. Then we have line, which is a straight path that extends both directions infinitely, and infinitely means that it goes on forever and ever and it never stops, okay, in both directions. Then we have ray, straight path that starts at one point and continues forever in one direction. So not the band, but anyway, the difference between a line and a ray is the ray is going to start at a point and extend only in one direction. It doesn't go both directions. So down here I've got some pictures of those 4 vocabulary words. Of course, this is the point, an exact location. This would be my line segment because I have 2 points that are joined by that section there. I also think of a line segment as something that has a beginning and an end, if you want to think of it that way. This would be my line. Now, it has a line segment in it, but it is called a line because it continues, those arrows tell me that it continues in both directions without stopping. So that's going to be my line. And then this, of course, is going to be my ray. It has an end point, and then it extends the other direction infinitely or forever and ever. Okay? So those are the 4 vocabulary words. And now we're going to talk about some tools that we're going to be using in math class. One of them, of course, we talked about in the last lesson, and that was your SRB. So that is always going to be a tool that you can use at any time except for a test time. We're going to use a ruler. Most of you know what a ruler is, and I have a very sparkly one right here. Yours probably isn't as pretty as mine. But a ruler, of course, we actually have numbers on it, and we can actually not only draw a straight line, but we can actually measure it. That's the difference between a ruler and a straight edge. A straight edge is not going to have those numbers. It's not going to tell us how long it is, but it will allow us to draw a straight line. We just won't know the length of that, so we'd have to use a ruler for that. You're going to have something in class called a template, and you should have used these last year. Don't laugh too hard at my picture, but it's basically a plastic piece that you have in class. It has some tools on it, like it'll have some geometric shapes that you can actually draw with your pencil or trace inside. There is a protractor that you can use to measure angles. There's a ruler, I believe, on 2 sides, and some other tools on that, but that will always be in there for you to use. Even during test time, there's some times when we're going to need to use that on a test. Then we have a compass and a calculator, and most of you know what a calculator is. A compass is going to allow you to draw circles. It also can help you with line segments. In the compass, if you're not sure what that is, that's that tool that has a pencil at one end, and then you have a sharp point at the other end, and I'm going to demonstrate how to use that in another lesson, but it kind of looks like this, and you put your point down on your paper and you can spin it around and draw circles. But those are some of the tools that you need to be familiar with. What are we going to be doing in this particular lesson? Well, one of the things that you're going to need to be able to do is you're going to have to be able to copy a line segment. Now that sounds simple, but you want to copy it exactly. So you're going to have to think about, well, how can I make this line segment exactly the same length as the one that I've been given? So that's what you're going to have to do. You're also going to have to be able to describe a line segment to someone that's never seen one. So how would you describe that to someone? Be able to determine how many line segments, rays, and lines that are in a picture. So we're going to take a look at some of these items right now. I'm going to show you how I would go about doing some of these things so you can kind of see that. And some of them I will leave for you to figure out in class. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, let's say that I'm going to copy a line segment, and let's say that my line segment, now you of course are going to use a straight edge, don't freehand it, but let's say that this is my line segment, and I want to copy that. I want it to be exactly the same. So how am I going to do that? Well, I put draw, measure, and connect. What does that mean exactly? Well, first of all, we're going to start with an endpoint. So I'm going to draw an endpoint, okay? And then my next step says measure. So let me get out my handy dandy ruler here. And that is 8 inches. So I am going to make a mark here at 8 inches. And then I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to connect my endpoints. And now I have copied that line segment, and I'll label it. So this is my copy, and this was the original. Simple, right? Okay, so that's one of the things that you're going to have to be able to do. It's not too difficult. You just have to make sure that you use your ruler and a straight edge to draw that straight line. Now, the next thing I want you to be able to do is take a look at this diagram right here, and I want you to look at it for a minute, and I want you to see if you can write down how many rays do you see. So I want to know how many rays, how many lines, and how many line segments do you see in that diagram? Now, the next part of that is, can you name them? Okay? So I'm going to give you just a few minutes. Well, not a few minutes, but a few seconds probably. You can pause the video. But I want you to write down how many rays you see, how many lines, how many line segments. Okay, let's start with the rays. If I were going to name rays, remember we have an endpoint and then it goes on in one direction. So I would have ray M. I would have ray N M. I would have ray O-N-M, and I would have ray P-O-N-M. We could probably take off these other letters, but I just want to show you that we're covering that whole span there. Then I could turn around and go this direction, so I could have ray P, right? And I would still have O like I did here, N going that direction, and M going that direction, okay? So let's say we're going to count that as 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to take that one off. So let's say that we had 4. Okay, how many lines do we have? That means it has to go in both directions without stopping. I see 1. Okay, and how would we write that? We're going to write this like that. That symbol has to be at the top to show me that it's a line. And I'm just going to call it MP. And I could also call it PM. Okay, I can flip those letters around and do it the other way as well. But that's still just 1. Okay, and then line segments, I see lots of line segments. Okay, we would have MN, gotta put my line segment above that. I could have NO, I could have OP, I could have NP, I could have MP. Okay, you see how that's working? And then I can also turn the letters around. So I could call this one NM, and I could call that one ON, and this one PO, PN. I could flip them around and go the other direction. So let's look here. We've got MN, we've got NO, we've got OP, then we have NP, and we have MP. Do you see any others? I'm going to let you ponder that. If you find others, let me know when you come to class the next day. But let's say that these are all I found. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and see, there's more than one way to name those. So if we were counting all the different names, then we would have 10, wouldn't we? Okay, so exactly what did we do today? We learned how to copy a line segment. And remember, we draw an endpoint first. We measure the line segment, take our ruler, measure it out, draw the line, put the endpoint, label it, and boom, we've got a line segment copied. Okay? We've looked at a diagram and we've figured out how many raised lines and line segments that we have, and what we need to remember when we name those is that we put the correct symbol above the letters so that I know when I look at your work whether you're talking about a ray, a line, or a line segment. And even if I asked you to talk about a point, you would put a point, and if we were talking about point A, that's how we would write that. Okay? So we've got the symbol and the letter. These have the symbol and the letters, just like we did earlier. Okay? Again, if you have any questions, please write them on the bottom of your note paper. Bring them to class. Don't forget in Google Classroom to mark this lesson as done so I can see that you actually completed your assignment. And again, if you have questions, you can type me a question online in Google Classroom, or you can write it down on your piece of paper and bring it into class. Okay? I will see you next time. Thanks.